Hello and welcome. I am Chuck.Estus. Sorry, today is not a Diablo 2 video. But if you don't know this game, this is a TCG and I have been playing it for a few years, ever since I sold my Magic the Gathering collection. This is one of my favorite decks to play, and by the way, it's somewhat spicy and just janky as I love them. But let's get started with the cards, and I will be explaining a bit further how the deck actually works. At first glance, the deck seems a bit spread everywhere, but after some reasoning behind the cards I choose, it all actually makes pretty much sense. Anyway, the ruler is Yggdrasil, the World 3. It says if damage dealt by a source your opponent controls will reduce your life to 0 or less for the first time this game. It reduces your life to 100 instead. Then you may search your main deck and or N for up to one card named Avatar of the Seven Lands Alice and up to one card named Blade of the Seven Lands Excalibur X and put them into the field. Then shuffle your main deck. Then we use a single copy of Blade of the Seven Lands Excalibur X. You cannot be targeted by spells or abilities your opponent control. Your G-Ruler and Resonators named Alice you control gain plus 400 plus 400. Whenever your G-Ruler or Avatar of the Seven Lands Alice you control becomes targeted by a spell or abilities, cancel that spell or ability unless its controller pays 2. Then I have two copies of Avatar of the Seven Lands Alice. It's a 15/15 with quick cast, target attack. If damage will be dealt to you, it's dealt to this card instead. Then I use 4 copies of the Little Prince. This card gains +4/+4 for each different total cost among Resonators you control that do not share this card total cost. You gain 1000 life if your life is 1000 or less. I also use 4 copies of Snow White the Avenger. It's a 8/8 precision. This card gains first strike as long as your life is 3000 or less. This card gains swiftness as long as your life is 2000 or less. And this card gains +400/+400 as long as your life is 1000 or less. I use 2 copies of the Last Drop. Choose one. You gain 1000 life or put target Resonator with total cost less 2 or less from your graveyard into your field rested. 2 copies of Celestial Wing Seraph. It's a 1000/1000 flying. When this card enters the field, you may search your deck for an Angel Resonator with total cost 4 or less and put it into the field. Then shuffle your deck. Whenever this card attacks, you gain 300 life for each Angel you control. I have 3 copies of Heteroclite Excalibur. It's remove target Resonator from the game, you lose 500 life. A single copy of Crimson Sanction. Choose one. This card is 400 damage to target Resonator or this card deals 300 damage to target player. Seal 5. As you play this card, if you control 5 or more stones, it gains the following text. This card is that much plus 400 instead. 4 copies of Arla Demonic Flying Ace. It's a 7/800 Will of Despair Flying. You pay 200 life. This card deals 200 damage to target attacking or blocking Resonator. A single copy of Arla the Light Wing. It's a 800/800 Flying. Author G Resonators you control with Flying gain barrier. You tap. This card is 400 damage to target attacking G Resonator. You pay 1 and tap. Destroy target addition or regalia. I say tap, but it's rest. 3 light stone and rest. Destroy target G Resonator with flying. 2 copies of Astema, the Returnee of Hatred. It's a 7/600 flying. Enter, your opponent loses 500 life. We do not use runes, so the next part is not interesting to us. You may pay 400 life to draw a card only during your turn and once per turn. Pay 1000 life, your opponent loses 500 life, and you may also use this ability only once per turn during your turn. I have a single copy of the final battle. You may pay 200 life, return and pay 1 up to X time to play this card. G resonators your opponent control gain minus X until end of turn, where X is the mana cost, the stone cost of this card plus 1. Then I have 2 copies of Fallen Angelic Destroyer Lucifer. It's a 900 flying, enters, your opponent banishes a resonator. You pay black and moon. Whenever this card deals damage this turn, you gain that much life. Play this only once per turn. 4 copies of Little Angel of Armala. It's a 300 flying. Banish this card, you gain 300 life. 2 copies of the First Lie. Each player chooses a number secretly. Then those numbers are revealed. Each player with the highest number draws 3 cards and loses 100 life multiplied by the number he or she chooses. Then I have 4 copies of the Seal of Wind and Light. It's a cancel target spell, pretty simple. And finally, a single copy of Yggdrasil, Beast of the World. It's a 1400. If your life is 100, you may pay 0 to play this card. Blocking does not cause this card to rest. And now for the stone base, it is a very taxing base. First of all, we have 4 copies of Magic Stone of Moonshade. It's produce 1 moon, or you pay 200 life to produce 1 of any color. A single copy of Ancient Magic Stone. Obviously, you need to pay 300 life to get this to play, not rested into play. It produces 1 light and 1 dark. A single copy of Awakened Magic Stone, the Earth. You also need to pay 300 life to play this with this deck, so it doesn't come into play rested. It produces 1 light and 1 fire. A single copy of Precia's Memoria. You also need to pay 300 life, so it doesn't come into play rested, and it produces 1 light and 1 wind. 1 copy of Killing Stone. You need to pay 300 life, so it doesn't come into play rested. It produces 1 wind and 1 dark. And finally, a single copy of Magic Stone of the Ebon Home. You also need to play 300 life again to get this card not reset into your field. It produces 1 fire and 1 darkness. So how exactly does this mess of cards work out? What the hell is this deck? This is what you should be thinking right now. First, you need to understand that there is an interaction that you should have noticed by now. The ruler is Yggdrasil, and once your life reaches 0, you are returned to 100 life, and then you may search your deck for 2 cards and put them into play, which are Alice and Excalibur. Then you may play Yggdrasil during your turn if you're still alive by then. Alice makes it so that you are untargetable, and Excalibur makes it so it's harder to kill Alice, and she gets stronger. But you are still within killing range at 100 HP. Obviously, this is still a pretty tricky situation, because if you reach 0 life and you had your ruler active, it probably means that the game wasn't going so well, right? Not quite, because what we actually want to do is to force this condition on your opponent. So the way I set this deck up is that you have a very strong late game with cheap scaling cards, meaning that your opponent shouldn't be winning long term. So their solution is to kill you as fast as they can and while they have what it takes to kill Alice and hit your life for 100 more HP. So how exactly do we force your opponent to kill or force the trigger on them? We have 2 ways to go about this depending on the matchup. The first way is to lower your own life total, control the board with Heteroclite Excalibur, a single stone and 500 life to kill a Resonator. That's pretty nuts. Astima is also a great way to get your life down. You can draw cards, you can reduce your opponent's life by paying with your own life. We also have a ton of stones, and every single one of them they can reduce your life as you play them or as you drop them. Then you can hope your opponent attacks into you and you have what it takes to get back up after he tries to kill you. That's not really fun, is it? The second way, it's much more fun though, and that is to force your opponent to reduce your life to 100 via your own cards. The first one is Arla, Demonic Flying Ace. This card is a real bully. Either your opponent attacks into you and they risk getting their creature killed and helping you reduce your life total, or you reduce your own life total but you don't kill their creature. Instead, you let it hit your face, so you reach 0 life to trigger Yggdrasil. But this one, they can see it coming. This second card is my favorite card of the deck. The first lie. If your opponent attacks, and no matters what turn it is, you may choose a number high enough to force the attack to reduce your life to 0 at instant speed. Meaning, if it's your opponent's turn, you play this, they unexpectedly reduce your life to 0. Next turn you have an Alice at 1919 on board, then at 5 stone you can play Snow White as a 12/12 swiftness and Crimson Sanction, dealing 700 damage, that is a total of 3800 damage in a single turn. Okay, so this is a pretty nut combo. It's great, but what happens if you are behind and there is a risk of you dying before you pull up the combo? Well, you have Lethal Angel. You can banish it to gain 300 life, or you can block it and let it die. Who cares? You also have the Little Prince. If your life is 1000 or less, for 2 stones you gain 1000 life, and it scales pretty well into late game as it grows itself. Then you have the Last Drop. This card is an instant that you can net for 1000 life, or return a Resonator with total cost 2 or less to the field, meaning that you can return the Little Prince at instant speed. So potential at 4 stone, you play the first lie, force your Yggdrasil trigger, then play the Last Drop for 2 more stones. You can either gain 1000 life or return the Little Prince into the field and put your life back into the outside of the danger zone. This is also 1000 life that you can play with Astima to reduce your opponent life by 500 or draw an extra card. Then if you reach a point where you need stronger resonators, you have Celestial and Lucifer combo. It's here to save the day. For 5 stones you get 2 creatures and your opponent banishes 1. What's not to love? Finally, you always have 4 cancel spells in the arsenal, so no matter what kind of lengthy or short-term game you are going for, Seal of Wind and Light is always here to help. And yeah, this is it for the deck. If you have questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment. Keep in mind, I play with a single friend and we try to keep our decks to a certain power level, so we can enjoy our games more fairly and close. Anyway, I hope you enjoy watching, and if you are interested in seeing more decks, click like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until then, see you next time. Bye bye.